Hello, everyone. Welcome to Transformational Talks with Coach BJ. Welcome. Come on in to this talk tonight. And I know I always say every week this is going to be an awesome talk, but this is really one that really impacts everyone. I don't know anyone that this particular topic does not impact. So come on in. Let me know that you are here. I am so excited that you guys have joined me. Welcome, Facebook family. Welcome, YouTube family. Thank you guys for joining me tonight. If you feel led to share this live or start a watch party, feel free to do so. Again, we're going to be talking about insecurity tonight. And this is one that, like I said, definitely impacts a lot of people. And, for those of you who are new, welcome. Thank you for joining. And if you guys are watching the replay, when this live is over, welcome to you as well. So again, this talk is going to be about anywhere from 20 to 25 minutes. I try to keep it short, sweet, and to the point, just to give you guys a couple of nuggets, just to, on a specific topic that can help you through your journey in life. I am here to serve. Again, for those who are new, I am Coach BJ. If you don't know who I am, Deborah and Bella, thank you for watching and coming on. Welcome. For those who I don't see, but don't choose to say anything, that's okay too. I just hope there is something said here that will help you again, just move forward in life and be a better version of yourself. So again, tonight we're going to be talking about insecurity. And I always like to start off with just a couple of things. And most of you who join me on these lives every first and third Thursday of the month at 7, you guys already know, I let you know that Transformational Talks is definitely based on my perspective, my education, my experience, and my research. And a lot of times I give quotes and I give information. And if there is someone to give credit to, I definitely do that. I don't claim any of this work. A lot of times I just do the research and put it in a format that I think is very simple and easy to understand. So again, thank you guys for those who are still coming in and joining me. Thank you so much for coming in. And the second thing I like to tell you guys is to go ahead and bring out your journals and your notebooks, because I always like to provide content, give you questions, give you things to consider and think about. As we go in between talks and each topic, again, just think of this as a little coaching session, because I am a master wellness coach, and just think of this kind of as a personal coaching session for you. So I tried to make it personal and for you to really ask the questions of yourself on how to be able to move forward on these specific topics. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. Again, thanks everyone for joining. So instead of starting out with a quote tonight, I'm actually going to start out with a statement. And as you know, the topic tonight is about insecurity. But as I said, when I first came on, I don't know anyone in this world that does not have insecurity. A lot of times we are able to just hide it better than others. But a lot of us have insecurities, whether we wish to share them or not. We all have insecurities, and we all have areas that we can look at insecurity and see how we can overcome that. And that's what this topic is going to be about tonight, which leads me into the things that we're going to cover. So we're going to talk about, where does insecurity come from? Why are we actually insecure? How do we overcome insecurities? And I'm going to leave you with the secret and the key to managing that insecurity, and why actually being insecure is not all that bad. So I have an example of why insecurity is not actually all that bad. But for the unhealthy part of it being insecure, I definitely want to speak to that. Okay. So let's start off with, where does insecurity come from? So I won't tell you to take out your pads and pencil right now. So right now, I just want you to reflect on some of the things that I'm going to mention on here. So I'm just going to bring up kind of the top 3 as to where insecurity comes from. So the first one is past criticisms. So a lot of times as we are young, we are, in our youth, what we tend to do, our parents, unfortunately, a lot of times, and like I tell everyone, that I coach, when they come to me about, situations that stem from childhood as it relates to their parents or family, is that, there's no instruction book on how to be a parent. We just do the best that we can, what we've learned, and we just kind of pass it on. But as people also say, when you know better, you do better. So, as a parent, they might have caused some criticism that was definitely unintentional. And I'm going to give an example of, let's just say that, and I actually had a real client example of this, where, her mother told her, not to eat so much, or you're going to get fat, right? So that's just a blanket statement. And as a child and as a youth growing up, we're just like, okay, but we love the food, we love what we eat. But unfortunately, with that statement, unfortunately, our parents don't give us the why or kind of break it down. So the why could be, well, we don't want you to be unhealthy and cause high blood pressure or maybe become a diabetic, something that could, ultimately lead to you being on medication for a long time or even death, right? So eating too much or eating too much of the wrong foods can be unhealthy. But the parent makes the blanket statement of, you know, you're going to get too fat if you keep eating all that fast food and that bad food, right? Relatives could chime in and do the same thing. And then your peers at school, there's always a standard with your peers at school, having the better clothes and criticizing you for what you wear. So, back in the day, and I may be, putting the age on myself to say that, you got your clothes or you got your shoes from Kmart, right? People used to joke about that. So maybe today people may say, you got your stuff from Dee Dee's Discount or, or Walmart or somewhere, right? Joking on you versus like, oh, maybe not having the best, Macy's or, some of these other, Nordstrom's or some of these other high end stores, and in school, your peers used to, be very mean, right? So again, past criticisms is number one. The second thing when it comes to insecurity is negative self-image, right? Comparison to others. So we're comparing ourselves to others, right? And the comparison to others typically comes from, again, it could be your parents, unfortunately, where they may say, well, so-and-so's child is doing, better in school, or so-and-so child, look how she looks, or look how he looks, right? Again, that comparison could come from your family. That comparison can come from social media, our culture. We need to be a certain size, our culture. We need to have a certain level of education. If you're not a doctor, if you're not a lawyer, then it means you're a nobody, right? Or, you just can't be, something that you want to be that's not, again, considered, a high paying job or considered favorably looked upon in society. So again, that negative self-image, again, that's number two. So that's, one of the other things. And so the third one is needing approval. And this is, and I say cycle of approval, and I put that in parentheses because it starts out with someone telling you that you're doing great, right? It could be great at work. You're doing great in school. There's some compliments coming from somewhere, and it's a good thing to receive compliments, right? But a lot of times we use those compliments as validation. So there's a bar set validating that I'm doing well because, my teacher said it, or I'm doing well because so-and-so said it, right? So we esteem others higher than ourselves. So we look at these authoritative figures, or we look at famous people, or we look at, again, people who are deemed, the high class of society. If they say that I did a good job, or if they say that I did something well, then it must be right. So, and that's harmful, because the next person may come along and may give you some really good feedback or constructive criticism that could really help you move forward. But you believe, because it came from this person, that, okay, it's not valid. Or it could be the other. You could have somebody that you hold in high esteem that can give you, some constructive criticism. And then again, you get down on yourself. And then so now you're looking for more approval. So you go through this hamster wheel and this cycle of needing more approval and gratification because of the first one, right? So you keep looking for that gratification. And if somebody say you're doing not well, for some reason, you look within yourself and say, okay, I'm not good enough, right? So the cycle of approval. So those are like the top three as it relates to, where does insecurity come from? So those are kind of like the top three. There's more that I could talk about, but again, for the sake of keeping it short, sweet, and to the point, just want to give you a high level of a couple that really is impactful. So let's talk about the next thing. So Why are we insecure, right? So, behind our insecurities, you can find our need to belong, to be part of something larger than yourself, your community, a group. So I would say like Greek organization or 100 Black men or women or the Eastern Stars or the Masons, or I can name various organizations that, you may want a sense of belonging, right? So that's where some of the insecurities come from, your sense of belonging and want to be a part of, right? And so let's just say that that doesn't go too well, right? So what we begin to think is that behind the scenes, we are afraid that if we don't meet a certain criteria for people, then they won't accept us. So it's always these stipulations. There's always these, certain things you have to meet. And if you don't meet those specific criterias, if you don't meet that, then they won't accept us. So a lot of times we automatically think that because of some of the things that I mentioned earlier, past criticisms, negative self-image, the need for approval. So a lot of times we fear, trying to go into a community organization or doing something because it goes back to being insecure. And it could be some of that negative self-talk, like, I'm not good enough or some of those things, right? So that's one of the things that we're insecure. So at this part, I want to actually hear from you, and you can drop it in the comments. And I will start it off and give you a few that I, think of right now just to throw out there. So when you think about insecurity, what do you typically worry about? And I want you to just share some of those in the comments. I'm going to say, that I'll fail, because one of the things, me personally, I had a fear of failure in college. And I don't know where that came from, but I had a fear of failure. My actually professor had to tell me that you have a fear of failure. She said, because if you come and ask me what your grade is again, like, I'm not going to tell you. She said, because it's just unnecessary for you to have a fear of failure. And I don't know where that came from. Or I'm too fat, or, am I good enough? Again, needing that validation. So if some of you, I'm going to come over to the comments to see if anyone is saying, hey, Dunn, hi, Margaret. Thanks for watching. Anybody want to drop any comments in there letting me know just some typical insecurities? Doesn't have to be you personally if you don't want to share. I understand, even though there's no judgment. But just drop some comments in there. There's just a few, that I wanted to throw out there just to start the conversation on that. But just give me some feedback. Give me some comments as to again, what are some of the typical, things that people say? What are typically people are insecure about? And I'll just give you a minute to that. But again, so like I said, I'll fail, I won't be good enough. I won't, measure up. What if they don't like me? What if I'm too ugly? What if, all these things that we come up with, right? So as you guys are doing that, I'm going to go ahead and just, keep talking for the sake of time. Because like I said, I like to keep it, short, sweet, and to the point. So I will let you know, as you guys are thinking about that and putting those in the comments, is that, for the average person, being insecure typically involves the following 4 statements. Okay. So let's give you the first 2. So the first 2 is, I am insecure. And if you want to write these down and really look at these, really think about this, right? Some of these will come easy and others may not. So I am insecure means I am unsure of myself. The second statement that people will typically make is, I am unsure that I can get others to see me the way that I would like them to. And that's bad that some of us think that way. I am unsure I can get others to see me the way that I see myself. So it's sad that you have a need to try to convince someone of yourself. It would be really sad for you to try to have to convince somebody to see you the way you see yourself, right? So that's the first 2. So the last 2 on this is, I am unsure that I will be okay, even if those around me do not accept me and welcome me the way that I would like them to. So that just kind of plays off of the one that I just mentioned. And then the fourth one is, I'm afraid of making mistakes and being judged by it. That's a big one. We are so afraid of being judged. And that's why I always like to start off any conversation, anything to say, no one has any room to judge anyone. There is no room for judgment anywhere in life, because we all have our skeletons in our closet. We all have our flaws. We all have our insecurities. We all have those things, and there is no room for anyone to judge anyone, right? But we are afraid. It's just like me coming onto the lives, and I've told a lot of people, my personal friends, me being live. I love being behind the scenes, coaching, doing workshops, doing group coaching, doing classes, doing various things. But it's like having to be out on Front Street on social media, on, just, with people watching me. It's like, ooh, what are they thinking? Right. And so even me, I had to get out of that mindset. It doesn't matter. Even if just one person benefit from the lives that I do, then that makes me feel great. And that's how I had to change my mindset to think that if this blesses one person, and if someone can move forward in life and be a better version of themselves based on the things that I talk about every other Thursday, then that's all right with me, right? And that's what I had to focus on, not what everybody else is thinking, because everybody is not going to agree with you. Everybody is not going to receive the things that you say, and that's okay, right? So, those are the things that you have to look at and see. And so I'm coming back over here to the comments, and I see, might not be equal, right? Exactly. Janine says the fear of not measuring up, right? Exactly. Don says, sometimes I don't know how to take a compliment. I tend to downplay it instead of just saying thank you. But now I'm conscious of it now, and I'm getting better. Exactly. What a blessing. And Joanna, I used to care about my self-image and what others thought. You say, but honey, I have learned that no matter what somebody is always going to criticize. And that is so true. Everybody is not going to be for your good. Everybody is not going to be for your good. And you just have to be okay with that. And that's why I can't wait to get to these other few points that I have before we, get off here. So one of the things that I want you guys to write down, and really just keep your pad and pencil out for this part right here. Write this down. Insecurity is about the amount of control we feel we have over how others perceive us. I want you to really know what insecurity is all about. And that is exactly what it's about. Write this down. Insecurity is about the amount of control we feel we have over how others perceive us. So write that down and go back over that in your quiet time and let that sink in. But there is a way forward of overcoming insecurity. And so let's talk about these top 4. The first one is forgive the past. Just recently had a conversation with someone about this, about forgiving the past. And boy, I tell you how healing that can be. So if your insecurities have been shaped by a relative, or again, as I mentioned earlier in the talk, about an authority figure, someone that you esteem higher than yourself, go to that person and tell them how the situation or how what was said impacted you. You have to go face it head on, right? And even if the person is been gone, even if you have to go to their grave, even if whatever you have to do to get that off of you, the past, because you have to in order to heal and to move forward. That's the first one. The second one is accept all of yourself. I need for you to write this down, pause and take a self-assessment. And when I say that, I want you to look at everything. Look at your mind, look at your body, how you look at your accomplishments. That's what you need to be focused on, your accomplishments. What do you feel good about? It doesn't matter what anybody else thinks. As long as you feel good about what you do, that's fine. Don't let anybody down you or tell you, what you do is not good or not valid or not good enough. Because who set the standard? You set the standard for yourself, not anyone else. And I wish a lot of us, even myself included, could have learned a lot of the stuff that I know now and that I'm learning now at a young age, because it's so important to understand these specific things on how to shift your mindset, on how to be better as you grow up. And you won't grow up as adults that are still have a lot of hurt and pain and unforgiveness in their heart because they can't move on. So anyway, number 2 is accept all of you. Love all of you. Love every part of you. Okay. So the third one is practice self-approval. If you notice yourself wanting someone else's approval, their praise, their attentions, their likes on Facebook, all this stuff or whatever, I want you to pause and I want you to replace that with self-approval. I'm good enough. I'm going to use myself again as an example. So if I put lives out there or flyers out there or invitations out there, whatever, about these talks or my positive mindset in minute videos, and nobody hit the like button, nobody hit the share button, it doesn't matter with me because I'm happy about what I put out there, right? So it really doesn't matter. And as I stated earlier, if I'm able to help and bless just one person, if only one person get on this live every other Thursday, like I said, I'm good, because that one person is the person that I apparently that is receiving and want to hear what I have to say. So again, it's a mindset. Practice self-approval. Whenever you start to think about, okay, what people are, practice self-approval. Don't worry about it. As long as you're happy with it, that's what's most important. And then the last thing on this is embrace non-comparison. And when I say see them apples to your oranges, that's what it is, because when it comes to you, you want to have the mindset that there is no comparison. I'm not comparing apples to me, or apples to Don, or apples to Margaret, or apples to Deborah, or apples to Joanna. I'm not comparing apples to anyone, apples to apples, because it's not like that. So let's say that you see one of your friends traveling to Europe, and let's say that you don't, well, I guess, she get to travel and do all this other stuff, whatever, that I don't get to do. Okay, but you may be able to travel somewhere else that you enjoy. Let's say it's Charleston, South Carolina, or let's just say that it's in the mountains. But long as you love that, that's what's more important. You don't have to compare, because that's your Europe trip and I'm sorry, your South Carolina trip and her Europe trip is not the same. Look at her post and be happy and say, you go, girl, because that's what you like. But focus on what you like and what makes you happy, right? It's not about the other person. So let's talk about the keys and the secret, and we're about to wrap this thing up. So here's the key. Again, write this down. The opposite of insecurity is self-actualization. I know myself. I trust myself enough to love and accept myself, even if others don't. And I want to say this again for those that's in the back that can't hear me. The opposite of insecurity is self-actualization. I know myself. I trust myself enough to love and accept myself. It doesn't matter what anybody else thinks. I've been saying it doesn't matter what anybody else thinks. As long as you love what you do, love who you are, love everything about you, it doesn't matter. So that's the key. So let me tell you the secret about insecurity and how to manage that, right? So first of all, insecurity is fear, right? It's not really about insecurity, because we use the word just insecurity to say, okay, insecurity, right? But it's just that it's paralyzing and it's isolating, right? But it's about the reaction you have to it. So it's not about insecurity itself. It's about, I just lost my train. It's about the reaction you have to it, right? And if anyone haven't listened to my talk on fear that I did the other week, go back and look at that, because I talked about that as well. It's about how you react. I think I was talking about that in emotional and mental wellness. Everything is about how you react to it. It's not the event or the thing itself. It's about your reaction to it that paralyzes you and isolates you and causes you to have fear. So one way to manage your insecurity is to ask yourself the question every time you feel insecure about anything. Is my insecurity appropriate or inappropriate for this particular situation? So write that down. That's the question that you need to ask yourself. Is my insecurity appropriate or is it inappropriate for the particular situation that it is displaying at that time? Right? So I said I was going to tell you that insecurity is not all bad. So there are situations when being insecure is absolutely normal and healthy, believe it or not. And I will tell you that the example that I'm going to give is just in any basic situation is that anytime that you are in a new environment, let's say a new job, or you're in a place that you're not familiar. So let's say you go to a totally different country and you don't speak the language, right? So if you're at odds and you feel insecure about not speaking the language, okay, you should, because you're in the places you've never been before. It's not familiar to you, right? It's not your culture, or if you're in a new job, let's say that you went from one industry to another. So let's say you went from human resources to now a salesperson, right? Okay, you're in a new environment and a whole new industry. So if you are in two totally different things, of course, you're going to be insecure. And that's a healthy way of being insecure, right? So being insecure is not all bad. So remember two things. One is how you react to it, that will either cause you to be fearful and paralyzed and isolate yourself from the situation. Or again, it's not all bad, because again, it could be where you are in an environment or a situation that's unfamiliar to you. So it's unhealthy to be there temporarily, just not to stay there. Okay. And so here's what insecurity teaches us. It teaches us to be cautious and mindful. It reminds us that we have limits and there are opportunities for us to always expand and grow. That's what it teaches us, right? So those are the things that you need to focus on here. So I hope you were able to write down all of these points that I made. And I always like, for those of you who are new to Transformational Talks with Coach BJ, I always like to leave you with an end quote or something inspirational, but this is just really straight to the point. Insecurity kills all that is beautiful. Insecurity kills all that is beautiful. So write that down as well. So I am going to go back to the comments because at this point of the talk, we're right at about 26 minutes. And so, like I said, I like to keep it short, sweet, and to the point, but I would love to stay on and answer any questions that you have, any comments, anything that you want to share. I see other comments up here that you guys have mentioned. You guys warm my heart. I just love you guys. And just thank you so much for watching here. If you guys have any questions or comments or want to ask any questions, and even if it's not on here, if you need any additional support or anything that you need from me, you know how to reach me on my social media platforms. I just appreciate you guys watching and spending a part of your Thursday with me. It just really makes me feel good. I appreciate you guys. I love you guys. And again, if I can be any support to you, I'm here to serve. That is what these talks are about. And stay tuned for this weekend because I will be sending out the talks for the upcoming talks for the next ones that we have. I have a new platform that's coming out. That's going to be Transformational Talks with Coach BJ. And it's going to be Ask the Expert. So again, you're not going to always hear from me. I'm going to bring on some experts. So I have an expert coming on with me in the next 2 weeks. So look out for that flyer, look out for those invites. And again, even if the topics and the things that I share with you guys don't apply to you, you got it all locked down and panned down, feel free to share it just with someone who you believe that it can bless. And that's what I'm here to do. I'm just here to give people a few pointers and a few nuggets just to get through life and just to help them be a better them as much as I can. So I don't see any additional comments. I just want to thank you guys for watching. Thank you for taking your time out with me. And you guys have a blessed evening. Have a good one. Bye.